a maternity nurse conspires with a pathologist to revive her daughter. Even if it costs someone else's life, the pair are keen to complete their task. Inside the operating room, a pregnant woman in critical condition gives birth to her child prematurely. While a doctor and a nurse resuscitate her child, the woman experiences an extreme seizure, ending her life. Shortly after, Dr. Rose Casper, the hospital's pathologist, dissects the woman's corpse and harvests organs. On the other hand, Celie Morales, the maternity nurse, displays a melancholic expression as she tends to the now motherless child. Despite their similarity in profession, their personalities are polar opposites. Rose is strict and indifferent toward her colleagues, whereas Celia has a strong camaraderie with hers. Moreover, Celia's life is more colorful as she cares for her energetic daughter Lila. One night, Rose heads to a downtown bar when a patron strikes up a conversation with her. Again, the woman displays a cold personality and shuts him down with her icy words. As the man returns to his drinks, Rose scrutinizes him for a second. She orders him to approach her and offers to pleasure him in the bathroom. However, the deed isn't merely for pleasure since Rose collects the man's fluids for scientific purposes. Moments later, Rose heads home where she feeds and injects an IV to her pig named Muriel. Then, she enters the bathroom and inseminates herself using the patron's fluids. The next morning, Celia wakes up late, leading her to awaken her daughter hurriedly. Lila protests as she feels unwell, but Celia thinks she's lying to avoid school. But when she kisses Lila's forehead, Celia realizes she's telling the truth. Without a choice, Celia asks her neighbor Pauline to care for her daughter while she goes to work. Lila throws a tantrum as she wants to stay with her mother. Regardless, Celia refuses to yield since she's running late for work. A few hours after her first task, Celia receives a phone call from Pauline, informing her about Lila's state. Celia requests to talk to Lila, but Pauline's line suddenly becomes unresponsive. Before she can resume her call, Rita alerts her that a patient needs her help feeding her child. Because of her shift, Celia is visibly tired, and a brief bathroom break is her rest for the day. However, another inconvenience happens when she abruptly stands. Her phone drops on the toilet, making it inaccessible. Back in their apartment complex, Celia looks for Pauline, but the woman is nowhere to be found. The door is left ajar and the television is still running, signaling that the occupants must have left in haste. Now alarmed, Celia persistently looks for Pauline and Lila, but she discovers a trace of blood on the floor. Immediately, Celia uses Pauline's telephone, but she notices a note her friend has left. The note informs her that Pauline took a sick Lila to the hospital since she can't contact her. Later that night, Rose receives Lila's corpse and asks the hospital assistant if she is an organ donor. The man confirms and hopes that Lila's organs may help children in need. Rose denies the possibility since Lila's records reveal that she has passed away due to bacterial meningitis. Shortly after, a morning Celia sneaks inside the pathology laboratory, hoping to see her daughter. She tries to find an authoritative figure, but Rose appears and reprimands her for intruding. She apologizes and begs to see her daughter. Upon hearing this, Rose asks if she is referring to the girl who suffered from meningitis. Hopeful, Celia confirms and asks if Lila is still inside. Rose avoids her gaze and lies that Lila's body has already been sent to the medical examiner. Nonetheless, she jots down their number and informs her that she can contact them. As Celia leaves with her colleague, she notices Rose loading a heavy bag inside her car. She leaves her be, thinking that she's just doing her job. Once home, Celia quickly contacts the medical examiner's office, but they're already closed. Following that, Celia transfers her SIM card to her spare phone and discovers Pauline's voice messages, revealing that her friend has persistently tried to reach her. The following day, Celia visits the medical examiner's office to find Lila's file. However, the clerk reveals it's non-existent. Because of this, Celia's suspicions about Rose's involvement arise. She returns to the pathology laboratory, demanding to speak to Rose. Upon witnessing Celia's anger, Rose flees immediately. Despite trying to leave quickly, Celia catches up on Rose and tries to talk to her, but she ignores her. For the next few days, Celia tries to contact Rose, but the woman doesn't answer. Therefore, Celia visits Rose's apartment and corners her. She emphasizes she doesn't want to cause trouble and simply wants information about her daughter's disappearance. Even if she's visibly guilty, Rose refuses to provide help. Suddenly, an alarm in Rose's apartment goes off, urging her to return inside. Celia persistently requests to enter her residence, igniting Rose's temper. Due to her outburst, Celia steps aside, and Rose uses this opportunity to sprint inside. But before she can lock her door, Celia forcibly enters, knocking her down. As she crosses the room, Celia discovers Lila's body lying on a hospital bed with life support attached to her. Rose tries approaching approaching Lila, but Celia pins her to the wall, ordering her not to touch her daughter. However, Rose explains that she must examine Lila or she'll die. This stuns Celia, and Rose reveals that Lila is actually alive. To test it, Celia touches Lila's foot and the girl reacts. Still in disbelief, Celia is curious about how Lila returns to life. Rose explains that Lila's genetic profile is a perfect candidate for her experiment on reversing the process of death. While they're talking, Muriel passes by, piquing Celia's interest. She inquires Rose about the pig, and the pathologist reveals that Muriel died 2 months ago but was successfully revived through Rose's experiment. Later that day, Rose administers Muriel's serum, and Celia asks if that's what she also feeds Lila. Rose explains that the serum was derived from fetal pigs, which triggers cell regeneration. However, she clarifies that she's working on a new experiment to produce a human-compatible serum. Celia worries about how the experiment will affect Lila's brain and personality. Rose doesn't give her a straightforward answer. Instead, she informs Celia that Lila's primitive cranial nerve reflexes are still intact. Hence, she can wake up theoretically. Yet, she can't guarantee its full certainty since there are ethical considerations. With newfound determination, Celia begins to inquire about Rose's routine in keeping Lila alive. Rose tells her she's able to turn Lila in every few hours whenever she's home. Celia opines Lila must not be left alone. Therefore, she volunteers to cohabitate with Rose. One day, Rose goes for an ultrasound checkup for her unborn child. The ultrasound tech reveals that her child is in good condition, but Rose remains indifferent. Back in her apartment, Celia informs Rose that Lila was smiling earlier, but Rose is unimpressed, telling her that it's merely a primitive reflex. Though Rose is unenthusiastic about her news, Celia believes Lila's recent behavior is a good sign. Later on at Celia's workplace, she waits until her colleagues are away before stealing some medical supplies. She proceeds to leave the establishment when she bumps into Rita. Out of concern, Rita checks on her, especially since she hasn't heard about her in a while. Celia apologizes, but Rita assures her she just wants to ensure she is not alone. Upon hearing she's okay, Rita wonders why Celia didn't prepare a service for Lila. Celia lies there'll never be a service because they're not religious. Meanwhile, Rose ingests some pills and forcibly pushes the fetus out of her body. Now, Rose has successfully produced a vital ingredient for the serum. Moments later, Celia returns home and calls for Rose, but the woman doesn't reply. Celia begins to worry, but Rose suddenly appears, surprising her. However, her surprise turns to concern when she notices Rose's frail state. Rose tells her she's fine and leaves the room with the medical supplies. Despite her words, Celia can't shake her worry away, especially since she's noticed the fetus inside the glass beaker. Later that day, the pair proceed to remove Lila's ventilator. At first, Lila isn't breathing, eliciting concern from Celia. Rose tells her to wait, and after a few seconds, Lila begins to breathe on her own. In the evening, Celia comments that what happened earlier was a miracle. Rose thinks otherwise, leading her to chastise Celia for using such a word. She asserts that everything was a product of good science and hard work over time. With this information, Celia asks how long she's worked on such an experiment. According to Rose, she's been experimenting since she was in 2nd grade due to her scientist mother's influence. Back then, her mother ordered her to cut off a starfish's arm. After a year's worth of observation, Rose discovered that the starfish had regenerative ability. This time, Celia inquires Rose about her mother's whereabouts. Rose reveals that her mother passed away due to Parkinson's, leading Celia to apologize. Because of the sensitivity of the topic, Rose abruptly leaves. The following day at work, Rose receives a text from Celia, in which she sends a photo of Lila's previous starfish artwork. This brings an unexpected smile to Rose, even baffling Scott, her colleague. Immediately, Rose resumes into work mode, but Scott remains staring at her. She checks where he's staring at and discovers that she's been bleeding. Suddenly, Rose faints. Meanwhile, Celia's cleaning when she discovers an old box belonging to Rose's mother, Dr. Muriel Casper. It turns out that Rose has named Muriel after her mother, bringing out humor from Celia. Upon opening it, Celia leaves through the photos where the subjects are mostly Rose and her mother. That day, Celia patiently waits for Rose's return, but the woman is yet to arrive. Now worried, she contacts Rose, but her call heads straight to voicemail. Celia tries again, and this time Scott answers the phone. She asks him if she can talk to Rose, but Scott informs her of an incident. Though Celia tries to pry for more information, Scott refuses, unsure if he can trust her. Snarkily, Celia announces she cohabits with Rose, so Scott informs her that she is collapsed. While conversing, Celia notices that Lila's finally sitting upright, donning an unreadable expression. Quickly, she drops her phone and hugs her daughter. On the other hand, Rose wakes up in the hospital bed when Dr. Chan and Colleen approach her. He informs her that she's developed an infection in her cervix that spread out to her reproductive system. With this information, Rose asks if she can still conceive, but the man refuses to disclose it. Even though she's yet to recover, Rose heads home and immediately checks on her serum production. Celia continuously asks about her whereabouts, but Rose's mind is focused on the serum. Disappointed, Rose tells her that her current batch is ruined as it should have been centrifuged 12 hours ago. Rose notices Lila, leading her to ask if Celia has awakened her. She denies it and clarifies that Lila has awakened on her own. As Rose approaches Lila, the girl weakly utters "mommy." Rose weakly tells Celia that Lila shouldn't be awake, and she suddenly collapses. Shortly after, Celia assists Rose in restitching her opened abdominal wound. She advises Rose to rest, but the stubborn woman refuses. Rose inquires about Celia's observations regarding Lila's behavior, and she reveals that Lila can produce sounds other than hand and eye movements. Taken aback, Rose asks for clarification if Lila can produce speech, but Celia emphasizes that they're merely sounds. Rose proceeds to ask if Lila has recognized her, but Celia is unsure. This leads Rose to conclude that Lila is regenerating faster than Muriel, which will be an issue because they only have limited serum. Celia opines they can make more, but Rose explains that the serum came from fetal tissue. Since she doesn't have a uterus anymore, she can no longer produce it. Now concerned, Celia wonders how they'll continue Lila's treatment, and Rose simply answers she'll figure something out. Throughout Rose's search for an alternative, she becomes absorbed in her element, making her unaware of the days that have passed. Thankfully, Celia's presence makes up for Rose's preoccupation as she's the one who takes care of the chores. Afterward, Celia suggests Rose allow her to help, but she refuses. However, due to her stubbornness, Rose yields and asks her what she wants to know about the serum. Celia proposes to provide her own biological material since she is Lila's mother. Rose quickly dismisses her suggestion, clarifying that Celia's blood type isn't compatible with her daughter. Moreover, Rose emphasizes it's rare she's the only one who matches with Lila. Not backing down, Celia suggests she can bring her biological materials from the hospital. Initially, Rose doesn't favor this, as they're unsure of its possible repercussions. But when she realizes she can run tests to determine possible donors, she abruptly leaves. Later that day, Rose goes home and stumbles upon Celia playing a TV show for Lila. Rose confronts her for not sedating her, but Celia believes it's unnecessary. To start a serious conversation with her, Rose turns off the television, causing Lila to grunt in protest. Through this, Rose discovers Lila's development. Moments later, Rose discloses that she's found a match in the OB intake records. Their target is Emily Parker, a woman in her second trimester. Even if it's the case, Rose clarifies they can use her amniotic fluid in the meantime. Though Emily has normal results, Rose has sabotaged it so she can return for an amnio checkup. Celia detests Rose's actions, opining it may harm Emily and her child. In her defense, amniocentesis isn't risky. During Emily's checkup, Celia assists the obstetrician in collecting her amniotic fluid. Afterward, Celia draws out Emily's blood while she converses with her. Celia learns that Emily and her husband have been trying to conceive for 3 years. This leads Celia to share her own motherhood experience and even provides tips for Emily. After successfully obtaining Emily's amniotic fluid, Celia goes home and enters Lila's room, where Rose tests the girl's reaction to the light. Upon seeing her child's progress, Celia rushes to Lila and hugs her out of joy. However, Lila appears repulsed by her affection, confusing Celia. Rose points out that she's scared Lila. Later in the evening, Celia asks Rose about how long their supply will last them. Rose supposes it may last them 3 or 4 weeks. Again, Rose plans to sabotage Emily's results so they can collect more of her fluid every month until they can access her placenta. This leads them into an argument, as Celia believes the frequent negative medical results may harm Emily's unborn child. While in the middle of their argument, the pair hears Muriel's concerning squeals. Celia discovers Muriel is barfing, and Rose quickly sedates her. With Celia's inquiry, Rose admits she's failed to administer Muriel's serum earlier since she was distracted. One day, Celia bathes Lila and sings her a nursery song. Surprisingly, Lila vocalizes and even performs the gestures, further displaying her progress. Though they've been treating Lila for the past few weeks, Lila has yet to exhibit full development. Even so, Celia is contented with Lila's small progress. The following day, Emily is done with her checkup, and the woman is clearly upset about the same scenario. As a result, she lashes out at Celia but immediately apologizes. Celia is undaunted by her reaction and remains friendly toward her. However, Celia's mood changes as Emily reveals that she plans on delivering her child at Lenox Hill Hospital. Celia questions why she chose there, especially since it's in the city. Emily explains that there are better amenities there. Before parting, Emily expresses her gratitude to Celia, particularly her support and kindness toward her. Celia acknowledges her words but feels threatened now that Lila's only life source will be gone. For this reason, Celia and Rose get into another heated argument as they're beginning to lose options. Left without a choice, Celia accesses Emily's confidential information and tries to contact her. When Emily answers, Celia immediately drops the call as she feels guilty. Meanwhile, a stressed Rose is bathing, making her oblivious to Lila's actions. The girl crawls into Muriel's room and tries to pet her, but the pig bites her hand. As an act of revenge, Lila stabs Muriel to death using the metal stand. Rose hears a faint sound of Muriel's cries and discovers that Lila isn't on her bed. Therefore, she goes out to check on what's transpired. She comes across a bloody Lila, and the girl curiously touches her abdomen scar. Moments later, Celia straps Lila onto her bed because of her alarming behavior. On the other hand, Rose examines Muriel's corpse and discovers something that might be connected to Lila. That's why Rose informs Celia that Lila struggles to gain full development because her brain can't communicate with the rest of her body. With this in mind, Rose suggests they perform a bone marrow aspiration on herself so they can compensate for the lack of serum. During the operation, Rose's overworked body endures the excruciating process of gathering samples. Once acquired, Rose and Celia administer the extracted bone marrow serum to Lila. To test the waters, Rose makes a video recording to track the effectiveness of the serum on Lila's development. However, even after 7 attempts, Lila displays no improvement. Celia is determined to find an alternative. She suggests taking more shifts, but Rose rejects the idea. Instead, she advises Celia to spend more time with her daughter, especially since Lila's time is numbered. The next morning, Celia takes Rose's advice and spends her day doting on her dying daughter. When Lila's time has come, Celia assures her daughter that everything will be alright. Shortly after, Rose returns home from work and tries to find Celia. She doesn't receive any response, which sparks concern in her. Because of this, she visits Lila's room, hoping to find her there. Suspiciously, Celia is not around, and Lila's body is missing. She notices a trail of water on the ground leading to her freezer. Upon opening it, she discovers Lila's frozen body. Meanwhile, Celia visits Emily's house asking if she can come in. Though confused by her sudden visit, Emily welcomes her. She asks if her pregnancy is okay, and Celia confirms. Not wasting any time, Celia hands Emily her record, stating that she wants her to have a copy, especially since she'll transfer hospitals. In reality, this is Celia's ruse to execute her grim plan. Emily offers Celia a drink to express her gratitude, and the woman asks for tea. While preparing the drink, Emily experiences slight stomach pain due to gas. Celia uses this opportunity to take over. Immediately, Celia spikes Emily's drink with a premature labor-inducing substance. Once their drinks are prepared, Celia calmly hands Emily's drink. The clueless woman takes a sip of her spiked tea, leading her to experience a seizure. Now that everything is going according to her plan, Celia contacts emergency and pretends to be a concerned individual. A few moments later, Emily wakes up in the operating room and discovers the doctors are performing a C-section on her. After taking her premature child, the doctor mentions that it's not breathing. Hence, Celia and the doctor resuscitate Emily's child. Suddenly, Emily experiences an extreme seizure, ending her life. When the operation is finished, Celia stares melancholically at the now motherless child. Then, she heads to the bathroom to splash her face with water, hoping to alleviate her stress. Celia receives a phone call from Rose, but instead of hearing what she has to say, she orders Rose to go to the pathology lab. Following their call, Rose has successfully harvested Emily's organs, but she's yet to finish. Finally, Rose has acquired the sought-after placenta. Back in her apartment, Rose notices Celia on the ground, visibly sorrowful. Celia expresses her regret for accidentally ending Emily's life. Despite Celia's words, Rose believes it doesn't matter for it's already done. She asks Celia if she needs to sleep, but the woman refuses. With her response, Rose invites her to perform Lila's revival. Even without sleep, the pair efficiently works together, and within seconds, Lila returns to life.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.